Welcome back to the program. So we're going to cover three short topics. We're going to try to get out of here pretty quick. No Friday night hour of rage. Dan is traveling, but hopefully we might actually do a Sunday, Monday, back to back. So we'll see what happens. I'll talk to him more over the weekend. But what I want to talk about first in this segment is the fact that what I've been saying for the longest time about the quote criminal conspiracy in Florida is really starting to take shape. And not only that, it's exactly what I said it would be and predicted that it would be way back when, well over a year ago. I've been saying for the longest time, the only way you're going to ever get any justice is through a criminal conspiracy. And I've also said that the deep state's fatal mistake was clearly the raid on Mar-a-Lago. Because if they didn't do that, statute of limitations would have run out. Nobody would be held accountable. And so now, because it's a criminal conspiracy, and that's how they are approaching it, which is exactly what I said that they will do, you should see probably a dozen, would be my guess, between 6 and 12 indictments the first quarter of 2027. So remember this video, keep it, put it for posterity, but I have a feeling I'm going to be right once again. And the reason is because of what just broke, now gaining traction. No one's really talking about it, so that's why I'm bringing it up. The story is actually from Yahoo News, so obviously the left wrote it, so keep that in mind when I read it to you, but it's what I've been talking about. The United States Justice Department has requested to interview FBI officials who were involved in the 2022 search of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida as part of a wide-ranging criminal conspiracy probe examining past investigations of the president, four sources familiar with the matter said on Thursday. The requests came from investigators working with Joe DiGenova. Again, he was appointed special counsel basically for Florida. You also have Jason Quinones, the prosecutor down there in Miami, working on another criminal conspiracy. So you have two grand jury criminal conspiracies working at the same exact time. Joe DiGenova is in St. Pierce, Florida, a little bit different area up north. And of course you have the other one down south in Miami. The requests have come from investigators working with Joe DiGenova, who began overseeing the Florida-based investigations earlier this year. The investigation has been seeking to establish that President Trump was the victim of a criminal conspiracy against his rights. There it is, laid out for you, okay? They're working on a criminal conspiracy. And again, not to be a broken record, the reason it needs to be that is because there is no statute of limitations. The questioning over the Mar-a-Lago search, which was first reported by the Associated Press, is an indication that the probe is examining a range of prior government investigations into this Mar-a-Lago raid. Spokesperson for the Justice Department and FBI did not immediately respond to requests for comments. The investigation so far had appeared to focus mostly on the 2017 U.S. intelligence assessment that concluded that Russia sought to boost Trump's presidential campaign in 2016. Investigators have interviewed current and former intelligence employees over the last several months. Now, what the article's not telling you is that that is true, but that's the one that Jason Quinones in Miami is working on, okay? But Yahoo News isn't going to tell you that because they're prostitute trash. So that is correct. 2017 U.S. intelligence assessment is what Quinones is working on in Miami. Joe DiGenova has his concentration on Mar-a-Lago 2022. And then it just goes on. Mostly it's left-wing bullshit, but several former career FBI officials who were involved in the search for classified documents at Mar-a-Lago had been approached for interviews in recent weeks. Some of these sources said The other two confirm there had been outreach to FBI officials who were involved in that search as well. They spoke on condition of anonymity, of course, to discuss any ongoing investigation. And then it says it's not clear what charges prosecutors may be exploring. The Justice Department has kept mum on all things referring to this. The FBI searched, and then it just talks about searched, 100 classified documents. Again, none of the documents were classified. I've said this a million times before. President Trump could write something on a napkin, put it in his pocket, take it out of the White House, and guess what? There it is, unclassified. So all these documents that were taken, all of them, were not classified. They were all unclassified based on who took them. It's in the Constitution, folks. Okay? Now, a vice president, on the other hand, fake Joe Biden, you cannot have these types of documents because that's not how the executive branch works. It works one way for the president, but it doesn't work that way for a vice president. So, for instance, if J.D. Vance wrote something on a thing and then walked out with it and it, was considered classified, he'd be in trouble. Joe Biden, having tons and tons of classified documents in the back of his Corvette and in his garage, should be going to jail. But of course, he's an elderly man with a memory issue, right? So that's not going to happen. Well, who knows? Maybe something else will happen to him that could be far worse, if you know what I mean. I don't think he's doing so hot right now. But the reality here is that they never had a case to begin with, number one. Number two, the quote prosecutor, Jackoff Smith, as I was calling him all those years ago. God, how many years ago was this already? 4 years? Holy cow. I'm getting old. Time's flying. Anyway, so 4 years ago, Jackoff Smith, right? I'm the one that called him that. I said he wasn't even appointed correctly. Well, guess what? He was never appointed correctly. Now we know Operation Arctic Frost going after the Senate and going after all these other people and conservatives. So he's in hot water in and of himself. Of course, the what's her name? I can't remember her name. The Florida judge dismissed everything. Eileen Cannon, I think her name was. I'm going by memory here. Cannon, I believe her name was. She dismissed everything, and based on the fact that he was not appointed properly. Okay? So, again, they never had the right to go to Mar-a-Lago. They never had the reason to go to Mar-a-Lago because, again, just like they did in 2015 and 2016, they made shit up. They made things up to try to get to Trump, and it never has worked. And by the way, now that Michael the Rat Cohen and President Trump, I guess, are on speaking terms, obviously they just did an interview together. What Michael Cohen said in that interview completely exonerates President Trump from the hush money case. 100%. Because he literally says that Alvin Bragg completely pressured him to do this. And the Democrats at the time under Obama, they wouldn't touch the case because they knew how bad it was. Even the Biden auto pen Department of Justice wouldn't touch the case. So, of course, they had, Fat Alvin Bragg, the stupid idiot in New York, goes, I'll roll the dice on it. Well, guess what? President Trump, based on that interview with Michael Cohen, he has the ripe makings for prosecutorial misconduct, malicious prosecution. He can go after Bragg and bankrupt his ass because of what Michael Cohen said in that interview, which, again, can be subpoenaed and used in a lawsuit against Alvin Bragg. So when you go after people and you have nothing but vile hatred in your heart for someone and no evidence, guess what? It's going to bite you in the ass. And I can only hope and pray that at least a dozen of these scumbags from the deep state go down by Joe DiGenova and Canones's investigations, grand juries, indictments. Hey, maybe we'll get an even dozen. 6 in Miami, 6 in Fort Pierce. We know the 6. We know the 6, right? Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Yates, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr. I mean, Rod Rosenstein, all of them. Whoever they are, we know who they are. Those are the people that at some point should be going down. Or, who knows, maybe rolling on somebody bigger, maybe Hillary, maybe Obama. I don't know. Depends on how much pressure they can get, how much evidence they have. And they say, hey, look, here's what we got on you. We know this. We've got you dead to rights. You're looking at 25 to 30. Or tell us this, 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 and this, and we'll get you 7 or 5 years, and we'll make sure the other person gets 25 to life or whatever it might be. I don't know. I'm not the attorney. All I can do is look at the facts and analyze it to the best of my knowledge and ability. And 98.5% of the time, I got a pretty good track record. So let's see what happens January, February, March, probably the latest of 2027. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.